Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Andrea. I'm your bookworm, and today we have another book review. And I can already say that you probably know which series we're going to talk about because it's been quite recurrent here on the channel. And yes, we're talking about Wheel of Time, about the review of The Gathering Storm. The Gathering Storm is the 12th book of Wheel of Time. I know we're reaching the end, just two more books. It's crazy how we've gone through from the first till the 12th. Jesus, English is hard today. Either way, the 12th book, and it's been a journey. But for the ones that don't know what Wheel of Time is, well, Wheel of Time is an epic fantasy series written by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson once Robert Jordan died, which was at the start of this book. So this is actually the first book that was co-written by Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan. But either way, Wheel of Time is a 14-book series plus a prequel and few short stories. I have reviewed all the books so far and the prequel here on the channel. You can check it out with all the thumbnails and cards showing up. And if you're new, don't forget, subscribe, like the content, and let's keep growing this community. But going back to the actual details of this book, The Gathering Storm was published in 2009, and in 2010 actually won the Goodreads Choice Award for fantasy. In its 15 years of existence, this book has gathered over 162,000 ratings on Goodreads, and the average score it has is a 4.47 out of 5, which is quite high. It is also one of the books with the highest score in terms of Goodreads scores so far in the series, but will that match my actual score for the book? Let's find out. The two housekeeping items I have to say is, first of all, the synopsis. I'm going to read you the synopsis. If you don't want to hear anything about it, there's the timestamp floating around. You can just skip to that time and you'll skip all the synopsis and all the spoilers that it contains. But otherwise, stick around and I'll just narrate it. It will be less than a minute, hopefully. Tarmangaiden, the last battle looms, and mankind is not ready. Randall Thor, the Dragon Reborn, struggles to unite a fractured network of kingdoms and alliances in preparation for the last battle. As he attempts to halt the Seanchan encroachment northward, wishing he could form at least a temporary truce with the invaders, his allies watch in terror the shadow that seems to be growing within the heart of the Dragon Reborn himself. Egwene Alvir, the Amerlin seat of the rebel Aes Sedai, is a captive of the White Tower and subject to the whims of their tyrannical leader. As they stick towards the Seanchan attack she knows is imminent, Egwene works to hold together the disparate factions of Aes Sedai while proving leadership in the face of increasing uncertainty and despair. Her fight will prove the mettle of the Aes Sedai, and her conflict will decide the future of the White Tower, and possibly the world itself. The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass. What was, what will be, and what is may yet fall under the shadow. Okay, with the synopsis out of the way, now we move to the second housekeeping item, which is the scores I gave to the previous book, just so you can have an idea how the scores are going so far. But as you can see with the previous ones, we have a score of 3.4 up to 4.4, so it's quite a range within the last 6 books. But I mean, we saw that the slog was truly over in the previous book because the score went from 3.4 to 4.4, just that huge range. And you can see that it's increased in a lot of categories as well, and now we're reaching the final arc where everything starts ramping towards that climax. And I'm not going to say much because I'll say in the review, but you can see already that from book 11 a lot of stuff has increased. But let's get the actual review on the way, starting with plot. For the experienced readers of Wheel of Time, you know that this book has one of the most epic and surprising plot twists ever written. And this is a reread for me. I've read this series before, it's actually my favorite fantasy series, but rereading this brings a whole other level of enjoyment because being able to see this coming, this plot twist, and knowing exactly what's going to happen, it was a lot more exciting, but at the same time so much shocking. It was just as shocking as the first time I read it, but it was more exciting about it. And the funny thing was experiencing how people that are reading this for the first time, how shocked and how betrayed they feel once they realize what's happening, because I've had two people that are close to me both reading. One of them I witnessed firsthand while they were reading, and it was just amazing to watch. It is, I think, truly one of the most epic moments in Wheel of Time and the whole series overall. But to say that this was one of the most epic moments doesn't mean that the rest was quite bland. No, quite the opposite. I think this book has a lot of plot lines that revolve a lot around character development, but they are truly very interesting. Honestly, I don't think I felt bored, not once, because even when we were jumping to characters that maybe I wasn't as interesting, their plot lines were quite engaging, and I was still curious to know how it will develop and how it would turn out everything. And of course, the ending of this book just left me wanting to open the next one right away and start reading it. It was so cliffhangy without giving you that sensation. It was just exciting. Okay, now I need to read the next one. So without any doubts for plot, this category deserves a 5, and it's probably one of the strongest 5s in the whole series. And regarding characters, I think characters was one of those categories that benefited immensely from the plot in this book. I think this book is a great example of how the plot and the characters can synergize to improve one another. I think in this book we have some of the best character development and examples that many authors should read. For example, Ren, both of them suffer transformations that are so extensive and so brilliant, because you can see that this was going to happen, that the previous books were leading up to this, but still it's amazing to see how this book is that climax of their character development. And I mean, throughout my reading, I felt my heartstrings being pulled, twisted, turned, and then turned back to me, and I was super enthusiastic about these characters, but also a lot of pain was coming, emotional pain, emotional damage from Egwene and Ren mainly, but all the other characters have amazing arcs as well. I just think that Ren and Egwene are the stars in this book, and their development is amazing. They both reach what I think is their peak, and not that they have to go down, it's just they reach their peak, their zen moment in this book, and they will stay like this throughout the rest of the series. I think Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson in this book were able to create amazing characters with unique connections with the reader and with other characters, making them so relatable but at the same time so powerful and so distinctive. So this category deserves a 5 out of 5 for me as well. Now, moving on to world building, I think this category has a lot of quality. No matter what book we are in this series, we just keep reading and we keep learning more about the world, about the magic system, about the cultures. And I mean, because we have plot lines scattered all across the continent, it's very easy for us to learn more things because of the extensive number of cultures and peoples that exist in this world. Of course, this is not the focal point of this book. It's still a bit in the background, like I mentioned in the previous book, Night of Dreams, where it seems like the world building is starting to take a background, which is normal because we're reaching big parts of this world or of this series, but you can see that it's taking a bit of a background, but it's still quite extensive and quite good. So for me, this category is going to be a 4 out of 5. Now, writing style is a category that needs to be talked about because this is the first book where we have partially Robert Jordan, but partially Brandon Sanderson writing into the Wheel of Time universe. The big question that a lot of people ask is there a difference between Brandon Sanderson's writing and Robert Jordan's writing? The easy answer is yes, there is a difference. I think it's impossible to actually write the exact same way as another author. But the real question that we should be asking is, do these differences matter? Because in my opinion, they don't actually matter that much. I think Brandon Sanderson does justice with all the characters. And I think we still have a descriptive prose and a good pacing involving the whole book. Of course, there are characters that I do sense a difference. For example, Aviendha, that I wasn't very sure if I was liking this version of Aviendha, but at the same time with Mat, I also sense a difference, and I actually enjoy Mat more now than what I did before. So I think that the difference in writing will matter more depending on your opinions and your experiences. Maybe you will enjoy the slight changes that exist between characters or between the pacing, because it will align more with what you like, or it might not, but I think it depends a lot on everyone. And honestly, for a first reader, you might not even notice the difference if you don't think that this category, the writing style, is the main category that you go for in books. So there's also that. But regarding the category itself, for me, it's a 5 out of 5. I think it's totally deserving of it because The writing is still amazing, and again, the pacing, the characters, everything was just done excellent. And finally, enjoyment. It's an easy 5 as well. I mean, how can I give any less to this book with the amazing moments it had, with so much I enjoyed it while reading? I think from the first chapter, this book hooked me and it didn't let me go until the last chapter. There's moments to cry, there's moments to laugh, there's moments to gasp, there's moments for everything in this book, and I'm sure you won't miss any of it. So as I said, easy 5 out of 5. And so we reached the end of our review. Just as a refresher, you have the scores for the previous books, but also for this one, which we gave 5 for plot, 5 for character, 4 for world building, 5 for writing style, and 5 for enjoyment, which gives us a final score of 4.8 out of 5. It's practically a 5. I mean, this book is so good, reaching practically the highest quality that Wheel of Time can get. And I mean, especially after the slog, seeing this astronomical rise between books 10 to 12 is just brilliant. It's so good to see. But at the same time, this means that now we only have 2 more books, and it's kind of scary. A bit sad, but also there's so much excitement. But most importantly, how will they do in terms of scoring? Let's keep reading and find out, but I actually want you to tell me, do you enjoy more the last 2 books of Wheel of Time, or actually this one, the 12th book? Comment down below, and don't forget, if you're new, subscribe, like the content, and I'll be seeing you on Thursdays and Sundays, okay? See you soon!